welcome to the Self-Made Book channel. I'm Bianca.
And I'm Byron.
And today we are joined by Bev. Should we say Beverly? Beverly Sydney. She is an accountant, and I would like to say she's a friendly accountant. And there is a difference, right? Because there are some accountants that aren't that friendly.
Facts.
Yeah, but Bev has been an exceptional asset to our community, helping them with all their accounting needs. And I've been grilling Bev about everything to do with the current Chancellor updates and what have you. And we thought, why not bring this online and bring it to you? So here we are.
So since this amazing announcement on, there's been a few. in the reverse order, if we have time. So let's talk about it for the most current one, which would have been Thursday just gone.
Yeah.
Time of the series would be Thursday just gone, and it was the amazing initiative. How many billions into the economy for self-employed?
Billions, as in how much the government are giving in?
Yeah. Who knows? Well, the question is, what is this amazing pot that our self-employed people can access, and how do we access it? In fact, let's not even ask that right now. Sorry, I need to ask this first of all. When the announcement came out, what happened to your phone?
Yeah, it was, I don't even think the announcement was over before I think my phone, I had to take my phone physically away from me and just put it to the side. And I think at that point I had to say to clients, look, I need to have a conference call, because what happens is a lot of them have heard half of the information and already, oh, Beverly, am I entitled to this? Or what am I entitled to? Or what does this bit mean? Or what does that mean? And half the time, literally all of the information that's been given out, you just hear the headlines, the fine prints underneath each one of those aspects of the I don't know what you want to call it, the government trying to help. So literally I had to say to clients, look, let me digest all of it, let me understand what it is, and I'll call you tomorrow. And that's, I mean, I can understand the stress of it all. A lot of people are panicking about, where they're going to get help from, what is it coming, how is it going to come, what's going to happen. So I understand the pain, but it's really important to kind of understand exactly what the government are given. So yes, it's X amount of billions, but how much of those is actually going to get to your pocket? That's a different story altogether.
Should we break some of them down then? Which one do you know? Obviously this is fresh for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So what's the quickest route to pounds and pence? Let's just keep it.
I like it.
For self-employed and entrepreneurs.
Okay.
What's the quickest route to pounds and pence?
So do you know what? It all depends on how you're defined. So you could be self-employed, but not self-employed in a sole trader type sense. So for example, there are some sole traders. So sole trader, for example, they still have to wait until, unless they go via the universal credit route, they will still need to wait until June before any kind of money hits their pocket. And even in saying that you're a sole trader, so you would have to have your self-tax returns for 16, 17, 17, 18, 18 and 19. But how about those people that only just recently decided, I'm going to sole trade? So those people fall into a different category, in that they would obviously, universal credits are still available, but you read online, it takes you up to 5 weeks, even though, I mean, if you heard the conversation, Sunak was held up to that. He was asked, well, how soon are we going to get the money? When online it says we have to wait 5 weeks. But his response to that was that there's an advanced payment route, so people can apply for that. That seems to be the quickest route, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. That's the quickest route to get
advanced payments. How does that work, and how much is it?
So normally, see, again, that's a tricky question to answer, because it would depend on a person's situation. From what I've seen, it's up to about £100 and something per week. Or not, minimally, because the government have increased that slightly. So that would be the quickest way, essentially, to get some money, depending on obviously who you are. So if you're a director for a one-man business, then that's different. So you wouldn't be entitled to that pot of money, if you want to call it that. But yeah, so it's really different, but essentially that's the quickest way at the moment to get something if you're entitled to it.
And I guess all of this right now is theory, because no one's been able to access money. Is that a fair statement to say?
Well, this is the thing, things are changing literally rapidly. So only this morning, have I, as one of my clients, literally got a letter. This is for the grant. This is for the 10K grant. So they've just had a letter from their council saying, okay, this is the process of how it's going to happen. You need to feed us this information first. Once you give us this information, they need to do their checks. Once they do their checks, is literally the money will be back straight to their account.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and then this other thing as well is councils, which I find a little bit annoying, but maybe it's just red tape. Because the councils are now putting the information on their website, but they're not necessarily letting people know about that. So if you are due the grant, so this is the small business relief exemption grants, if you're allowed that, go to the website, go to your council, call them up, make yourself known.
This is if you have a commercial property.
So they're twofold. So if you, you're right. Yeah, if you get a small business relief rate, yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, the small business relief rate is essentially you don't pay your rates. Is that right?
Yeah, you get relief from that.
Oh, there's a grant. They'll give you some.
Yes, up to 10K.
If you fall below the rateable threshold that they have,
That's right.
they have aligned, then you get your grant, 10K the grant. And there's one above, I can't remember what that was, but it's slightly higher, isn't it? I think
25, about 25. Yeah, that's right.
But that's only if your rateable value was under 51.
51, that's correct.
Because when you think about it, right, if they get that grant, they pay their rent.
So say that again.
You still have to pay their rent.
Of course. Well,
that is like
to support their rental payment. Yeah.
But at least they're giving it. But
yeah.
I really can't wait to see if it lands in the bank account versus I just really hope it does, because I can just see it. It's like PAYE, you know.
It comes off or something.
It's so hard to get the money, but it's so easily to you just deduct it off your next bill, you know.
But when you say get into the bank account, do you mean for the business owner themselves, whether they will use the money as to what they need?
You're going to land. Are they actually going to get it?
Yeah. Okay.
From the council, yes, they will. It will be backed. It will be backed. Yeah. That's what the letter said. It said this amount will be backed to your account after they've done their checks.
And they didn't have to apply for it. It was something that was sent, because I understand it. The council's supposed to give you a letter if you are eligible.
Yeah. So the letter that basically saw from this client essentially had obviously sent directly to them. They had to fill out an information form to put their details in, which obviously would then match what the council had. They don't have to post that back. They could scan it, then email it back. And then once they've done their checks, then literally, because that form itself they had to put their bank details into it. So once they put their bank details into it, essentially the money is then meant to go to.
But if you hadn't registered with your local council, then basically you're not going to get that letter.
Well, you wouldn't register if you're not paying council tax.
Anyway, yeah.
Business rates, yeah.
Business rates.
Or your rate exemption, if you're rate exempt,
If you didn't have a property.
If you didn't have a commercial unit, you wouldn't register.
So that's great for those who have a commercial unit, space. But that doesn't help the others who work from home, work freelance, self-employed. That doesn't help those.
Well, then there's all the different elements. And as I've said my conversation with the clients that I have that are like that has been, we had this conversation before where I've literally said, rather than, because a lot of people are waiting and they're waiting for the government to give them support. But I'm saying to my clients, look, you need to first of all go back and see, do a cash flow. Go back to the basics, to what you used to do before. Let's put it out on paper, because I literally did this with a client yesterday. And after she'd drawn, because she literally did a COVID situation and then did something else, to see, okay, how can I manage this? Only when she started to see that, looking in the colours and seeing the graphs, did she think, oh, hold on, let me speak to this person and minus that cost, and let me minus this cost, or let me hold this cost and hold that cost. By the time she had done that, and obviously with the furlough money that will come in, the situation doesn't look as bad. And for me, that's the first place to go. Where can I reduce costs? Who can I have a discussion with to minimize some of this cost for the moment? Because everyone's going through the same thing.
And you know what, I absolutely agree with that. But I think what's interesting is from a broader kind of business perspective. It's the business who's meant to be paid. So you're limiting costs here and there and everywhere, but they're businesses too. So the moment that, as an individual, you say, okay, actually, do I need to pay Sam? Do I need to pay Peter? Can I negotiate with him? Him or her, whatever, that is still another business that you're affecting.
You say that, but I see it this way. It depends on the business. If it's a bigger business, you're getting bigger money from the government. So you go talk to the government and get that money to help you. I know it sounds a little bit harsh, but if it's a bigger
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they are. They've got, there's a different.
How and when? Is there any?
Yeah, they're getting that. Well, if you think about businesses that do pay relief, they've got 12 months holiday of not paying. Yes, they will have to pay at a later point because it's just a holiday.
They've got 12 months holiday on their relief on their rates. Yes. However, they've got no income. So if you look at like the Primark story, for example, 33 million. Okay, they were making 650 million profit per month across their different stores, but their rent is 33 million. So they still have, they've got zero money coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, Primark said they're going to withhold their rent. Sorry to discuss, but they still have that cost, don't they?
There's no doubt, right? Primark will approach their landlords and negotiate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
And they'll have to take it.
I know, but what I'm saying is there are some big businesses that, although you're saying they can maybe
they'll be able to survive a lot.
Yeah.
And government will give them a lot easier because everything is in place.
Yes,
exactly.
Self-employed.
Who didn't remember to put that invoice in?
We declared £7,000.
Yeah.
They've got everything in place,
Yeah,
so the access to money is going to be
a lot easier for them. Yeah. And then obviously in terms of a smaller business or smaller supplier, yes, I definitely understand that. But there are options out there. So for example, the VAT deferment payment. So that scheme's also there. So that's something that would provide a little bit more cash flow. I think in a roundabout way, everyone helping each other works. And I understand what you mean about, well, if I go to the next one, how does he get his money? But overall, I think each person being lenient, if it's kind of passed that way and it goes around in a circle, then we should technically.
And also, big organizations paying invoices sooner would be great. Because so many of my clients that are on terms, and in the most part, I accept it and it's part and parcel of my business. However, right now, I could really do with them paying in a short and condensed period of time.
Yeah.
Maybe their accounts team all working from home.
Probably.
Go to the bank to make the payment.
I know, it's incredible.
Yeah. But whilst we're talking about the VAT deferment, can you just very briefly explain it for those who might have missed it or don't understand it? Give some clarity.
Sure. So it's basically, if you have a VAT bill to pay within March, April, May, June, you can defer that. So you don't have to pay that now. You can move it and pay it not until next year, March 2021. So it's only within those months. Say that again.
1 quarter.
Essentially. So that, but it's the payment, not the.
I read it. It seemed like I was like, yo, VAT holiday.
Nope.
Really, it's 1Q. So 1Q gets deferred.
But I think it's so important to be clear that it gets deferred, but you still got to pay it next year in March. So don't get excited. People could easily get excited and start spending that money, not realizing they still, owe it. But it's about cash flow.
Yeah. And I think this is a massive discussion about all of this money that's kind of going out, that the government are giving out. At some point, all of this needs to be paid back somehow. Holidays and no holidays, this, especially if it is a holiday, this is something that you would have to build into your cash flow to pay at a later point. Because I guess I suppose actually going back to this is one discussion to have with, because I suppose when a business starts, often, we always say to directors, do the dividend. Maybe I'm going ahead of myself with this one, but we always say to directors, you do the low salary and high dividends. So due to that, a lot of directors now don't fit into the self-employment. So they're not due to get that self-employment self-relief, but they can furlough themselves. That's been agreed now. It's across the internet now where you can furlough yourself if you'd like, if that's the option you want to go. And also, there is a universal credits if obviously you're in hardship, and that's there's support for you there.
So just to go back a step, so if you were a director and you put yourself on PAYE on the low threshold salary, so anyone that's watching, that's around £800-ish
a month,
and then you've got your dividend on top of that, so you've got your £800. You're saying you can now furlough yourself and get that 80% back from the government.
That's right.
How are they going to prove or disprove, or where's the burden of proof on you being furloughed? And just to add for the people watching, furloughed means you're not working. You're not allowed to work. You're not in the business. You're sat at home watching whatever you want to watch. You're not touching any emails. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
How are they going to, how can a director say that they're doing that?
Well, it's tricky to do that, but I mean, say for example, if you are sending, I mean, if you were audited, for example, you know, your emails would be checked. All these different things would be checked. If you did furlough yourself and, you know, HMRC then wanted to check to see if you actually did that or not. So it'd be a case of, well, did you send any emails around? So if you sent emails to your accountant, for example, that's fine, because that would be seen as a office holder duty. So that type of work is fine. But if you are
with a client, talking about a meeting in September because, you know, you're now trying to
that's work.
And that's work.
That's work.
And actually, it's meant to be from March. You're allowed to backdate it from March. In March, no one knew they had the furlough option. So how are you now going to go back to my emails and check if I was furloughed or not?
But how are they going? Who's going to check an email though? And how?
But I'm just saying, you know, the problem with this thing is there's a big headline and there's the small print.
The reality.
And the reality
Exactly.
But if they do, or if, for example, when the system is functioning, they suddenly say, can you tick this box, Mr. Director, Mrs. Director, and say, I was not working. You tick that box, and then somehow, for no reason, they decide they can't afford to pay everyone this thing.
Yeah.
They're going to do a check on everyone. However,
but the money's coming in June anyway.
No, that's coming a bit sooner.
Not the PAYE money.
Yeah.
The furlough.
Yeah. So the furlough money, that should be in from end of April.
End of April.
End of April.
Yeah.
No, March.
So they'll do March and April, end of April, and then they'll have the next.
So can you get March?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can get March, you can get April.
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah.
And they're going to be paying it into businesses' accounts.
Yes, of course.
Okay, let's.
Yeah, it'll be done through the pay-as-you-earn scheme. So yeah.
Let's say you get a new startup. Your payroll hasn't really kicked off yet because you just got a new start. You haven't put them on the payroll yet.
Payroll, yeah.
Because how do you even prove that?
Well, no. Well, if you'd have to be on a pay-as-you-earn scheme. If you haven't applied for the pay-as-you-earn scheme, then. Sorry.
No, but, okay, so you've already got 10 employees. That's fine, but. Yeah. All of a sudden, you're now submitting another 10 because you just had a recruitment drive in February. Perfectly feasible.
No, sorry, no. Break that down. Explain that again.
All right, so payroll, let's say payroll runs 15th to the 15th, you get paid on the 1st, yeah?
Yes, on the 1st of each month.
15th of February to the 15th of March gets paid at the end of March.
Right. Oh, right, okay.
I took on the first employee on the 16th of February, right?
So they missed that, yep.
They missed that. So I wouldn't be submitting to you, my accountant, all of my stuff because I've been, you know, so much has been going on. I submit it anyway, lastminute.com, for you to wage slips on the 18th for the end of the month.
Yeah.
And you would submit it whenever because it's a digital platform.
Yeah.
And how would they stop? How could they even challenge that? Because I've already got my scheme, my PAYE scheme, and I've just recruited 10 new people. Yeah.
Well, technically speaking, I mean, if they would have been due, because the way that the government have done it is it counts from the 28th of February. That's when, I suppose, staff who are going to be furloughed, that's when that's relevant. So if you just haven't added them on the scheme, then that's okay because they've been working through that period anyway. Does that make sense? Yeah. So they're essentially paying them in March. So that's fine. But that's not to say that, you know, I'm now going to add on people that don't exist to my system.
Well, anybody who's claiming any dime, the auditing process is coming for you.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
I just want to say, is anybody thinking about
trying to be
anything
smart, clever?
Don't do it. Don't do it, please. Please. I'll be honest. I've had. Shall I rephrase that? There are people that have suggested things, and I just have to say, you know, if I'm being a great accountant to you, I won't do it because you will end up in a mess at the end of it. Yeah. That's it. You know, I can happily do it. It takes me 2 minutes to click a button and get the admin stuff done. But you know, it's just, there's no point. Rather use that creativity and find a way to do
it. Oh, you didn't submit your accounts, but now you want some money, yeah? Your bills was how much? Okay. How you been paying that? Left. Whew.
Exactly. There'll be loopholes everywhere. I think there's support for most people. Come.
If a director suddenly just ups their PAYE, they've always been on £800 a month. Suddenly,
it's capped though, isn't it? Isn't it capped at like 2.5?
2.5
Yeah.
It is, but most people want to try and get most of the 80% because if we think about it, the low
£3,000 to get your whatever you're going to get, you can't.
Do you know what? When I was watching it on Thursday, right? I was watching it. B called me and said, "Oh, let's watch this thing." And I was, semi not interested anyway.
No, you're not interested. And then I've been forcing you to watch it.
And then I was like, because it's just all. Anyway.
Cool. Move on.
So cool. I came in to watch it, and then it sounded quite interesting, and I was like, okay, interesting. And then he said, you'll be able to access the payment in June. I said, get out of here. Get out of here. I'm off.
Yeah, it's
people supposed to do. You want me to apply for something now to get money in?
But there's all manner for people who, there's, as I said before, there's two ways. If you're not looking at how you could cost down and this is your one and only way of getting, trying to get money from the government or getting funds, help from the government, let me put it that way. There are lots of different ways. I literally only just found out, I didn't understand that much about universal credits, but housing cost is covered, mortgages is covered. So there's quite a lot of things that are covered within that. So people just need to go and look for it. If that's the route they want to go.
Can you give us some more explanation on that? And is there any exemption? Because I have a question which I was speaking to Bianca about.
Yeah. Well, with universal credit.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So again, I'm still studying. Universal credit's not been one that I've looked into. So
let me ask you a better question then.
Yeah.
So, and let me give the example on it. So, I was a young pup many years ago, 2008 credit crunch. I owned a property, and my cash flow was done. My tenant was not paying any money, and I was like, sugar, how am I going to pay like this mortgages if he continues not to pay me, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I've been working my butt off since I was 16. I'm like early 20s now. And I'm like, maybe I can go to the government and get some money because everyone was like getting this holiday pay. This is when the banks was going crazy, right?
Yeah.
Get money. So the first question was, do you pay tax or whatever? And it was like, the second question was like, are you a homeowner? Oh, I think it was, do you have savings of over 15K? No. Then he said, are you a homeowner? Yeah. Yeah. And the computer said, no, you're not eligible for any money. And I was like, what?
I think that's changed now. That's changed slightly now, where you get limited funds, but you get something. So I suppose one of the other things with self-employed, because obviously not something we'll talk about, but those who are self-employed, often, so somebody who just earns money from rental, they don't fall into the self-employment funds. So, how do they get funding? But the idea is that anyone who is paying rent should ideally be getting support, therefore they should be paying their rent.
But what about this theory then? So let's just say he owns 5 properties outright. The tenant now does not have any money. And the theory everybody's saying is, well, I'm not going to pay because you don't have to pay.
Because they can get a mortgage holiday. But they own it outright. They don't have a mortgage.
They haven't got any. And that's their income for their property. And
if they'd put that income into a limited company, I guess they would fall into the
direct, yeah.
Direct.
Yeah. But then, as I said, there really is no, and it sounds kind of cold to say, but there's no excuse now. Renters technically cannot say they can't pay because they can. They can go and get help from the government. The government are offering, that's a universal credit covers that. So they can get housing support.
How much does universal credit cover of rent or mortgage? What is it? Is it cover?
Again, it's one of those things. It depends on the person overall. So how much are they still getting any money externally? So there's a calculator that builds it based on various options.
Yeah.
So if you are a director, a company director, and you are on PAYE and you're not furloughed because you are still working on your business, you can apply for the universal credit, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yes, if you're not getting enough in, yeah. So obviously 2 directors, one can furlough, the other can carry on working, but I suppose, and if they're not getting paid enough, then they can go down the universal credit option.
But when they say enough, obviously, as you said, it's a calculator, but the maximum that they could get as a contribution is around 94 to 100 odd pounds.
About that, yeah. Which isn't...
Plus the home, plus the mortgage or rent.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, man. Okay, let's give another scenario, right? Let's just say you are now contracting for a company you used to work with. So, I don't know, you're a hairstylist or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you're now contracting for that client. What is the usual obligation to inform HMRC that you're now self-employed in which time period?
So that should have been done, depending on what month it is. It should have been done from October. October 5th. 5th of October, yes. So you should have let them know by then. If you hadn't.
Yeah.
But remember, anyone that's doing a self-assessment 1920, there's no help. There's currently there's lobbying at the minute, whether the government are going to hear that or not.
That's it.
Yeah. So when I was watching, I think it was Question Time the other day, the guy who's the CEO of Gym Group was saying that all of their staff, personal trainers and stuff, are all self-employed, and some of them, the gym is only opened, so they just applied to be self-employed. So they might have been doing it for 9 months. They wouldn't have had time to submit anything. They're now not going to get any money.
Because they're only considering from 1819 upwards, 1920. I think the government going to have to go back on that, I think, but who knows? They'll have to.
If they go back and change it, it opens up to fraud, and that's what they're trying to do. Because everyone would suddenly say,
yeah, I guess so.
Now you'd have to present bank accounts, you'd have to try and really prove it, and that's...
Give everyone $2,000, right?
I think they should just give everyone a blanket amount of money.
That's what America's doing, I believe, isn't it?
America's doing. Yeah. And I'm not usually like pro-American.
I know. I'm like that.
However,
what's Byron doing right now?
However, in this situation, that makes sense to me. And it may be, okay, they might decide based on, I don't know, your salary, maybe you don't hit the fresh. But the problem with that is, if you decide, okay, so someone earning over 100K, they're not applicable to get that £1,000 or £2,000 payment, that makes an assumption that they're liquid. And actually, you might be on 100K and be spending 100K and have someone on 20K.
Yeah.
So you can't make that assumption. So a blanket rule, all adults get £2,000 or £1,500 until this is better. It's probably easier to facilitate as a system.
Yeah. I think so. I think I read an article the other day. I think somebody actually worked it out, and I think it would cost $1 billion. It cost the government about 80 billion or something like that, which is a lot less than what it's costing now.
Okay.
Apparently. So I don't. Someone's worked out the maths. I don't know.
Someone will still complain. Someone will still say, "Oh, but my costs are $4,000 a month." But that's not really. That's it.
That's your cost.
Unfortunately, yes, that's unfair. But sometimes maybe that is what it is.
Yeah.
As I said before, there's no luxury living right now. Let's forget the luxury living right about now. But I mean, you made a fair point. It might just be basic. You're basic.
So you're basic. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, because I remember you said when I talked about luxury living, you said people just probably not able to live on just their basics at the minute. You know, but there's hindsight.
It's a mindset change.
Yeah.
I think that's what most people are coming to terms with. I was on the phone with someone earlier and I was saying it's a mindset change, and sometimes that takes a period. So I feel like the first week was panic.
Yeah.
First 2 weeks was panic. Like, what am I going to do? Everything stopped. Panic.
Yeah.
Now we're in week 2 or 3, depending on when you started the panic.
Yeah.
Now it's time to change your mindset and think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't wait. I can't wait for the government to come and pay me in June. I need to feed myself and my kids. I need to do whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset change. So as you said, it's not, what do you do?
Yeah, the quicker the mindset change, the better, really, for a whole lot of people.
Yeah. You were saying, cut Sky, cut the,
Cut it.
But the reality is, what I was saying was, there are some things you can't cut because you're in contracts.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as that, but you can maybe reduce your package.
Do you know what it is? I would even use that mindset. Well, I'd say I'd use the mindset and get on the phone, but sometimes you can't even get on the phone at the minute, actually, because I think I've heard people trying to speak to Virgin and waiting for 2 hours on the phone just to speak to, so I know it's a complete nightmare. But literally, when I get on the phone and I want to negotiate something, I'm dead on, give me what I want, or that's it. Literally, and more than 80% of the time, I get what I want, because my mindset is, I'm getting on this phone, and this is the set amount of money I'm going to pay you at this moment in time. You either take that money or you take nothing. But
that in principle, but in reality, sometimes that isn't the option, because you signed a contract, you agreed to 12 months, and I'm sure there's a small print that says if you cannot afford to pay something, then this is what happens. But this might be worse. Your credit.
You don't want to affect your credit rating for sure. But for me, I still firmly believe, and I don't know whether I'm just being really mean with these bigger companies, but seriously, you get on the phone and you can negotiate. It's a case of being able to negotiate, because most of the time, the companies, they want to keep you as a customer. They want to keep you. They don't want to lose you.
That's what we think, right? Because I think we're sensible business people.
Yeah.
The person I was speaking to earlier said they got their house insurance renewal quote through, and it was £600, and they were like, the comparison website got a quote £200. They called the company up and said, I want to leave. Went through the department for leaving, and they said, well, why do you want to leave, madam? They said, oh, I found a quote that's £200, so 3 times this. They said, okay, no problem, thank you, bye. They didn't even try to keep her. So to me, this is now a training problem. If you're a big organization and people are calling you, you need to start retaining people.
Wow. I thought that was going to end differently, actually.
And then what happened? She was like, no. They said, okay, thanks.
They're new. They're just
don't let those people on the retention line. If you're a company and you've got a sales function, that sales function now needs to take over the retention function.
Yeah, no, for real.
You're not selling, you're retaining.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's awful out there, but I don't know. I definitely think.
I think you're going to be busier.
I have been. I must say. I mean, at the moment, I'm
doing some sort of Bain accounting firm. It wasn't interesting. It was part of my,
Something's happening with the sound. I can't hear you that well.
There
you are. Did I miss all of that?
Yeah.
Oh, what did you say? What did you say?
There's a space in the market for, some trusted accountants from the Bain community to just take over the United Kingdom.
Yay.
Byron, why Bain specifically?
Well, why not? That is why.
But you want to have an accountancy firm and a law firm, Byron.
Do you know what? Win, lose or draw, my accountant wins. Win, lose or draw, my lawyers wins. Yeah. When my lawyer writes me a letter, it follows a invoice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes an invoice. Yeah.
You know. While I have this platform, actually, I could preach for days on this, but I won't. I think one of the issues with, okay, I'll call it businesses. I won't do Bain businesses because it's unfair. The accounting function is seen as, oh, I can do it myself. And people get into so much trouble with that. This is not even me trying to tout my business. If you don't want to use an accountant, that's up to you. But at some point, you're going to come to me to fix your problems. And then at that point, I'm going to have to charge you X amount of years. Say that again.
You're going to charge them all of what they were trying to save and penny pinch on.
And more, possibly. And that's the thing. And I think we really have to get into the mindset of, because the way that I see it as well is, okay, you want to grow your business. So ideally, you want to be focused on growing that business. The numbers game, you want to be able to call somebody else and sit, because only now that I'm sitting down with my clients, they're saying, oh, I wish I'd spoken to you before. I'm thinking, well, you weren't paying me before, so you can't get the service. So don't get me wrong, the clients that I've done cash flow forecast with, they're retainers. I'll sit with you all day because you've paid for this. So I'll sit with you all day and plan. But you can't now come to me to ask me for hours when you've really not, but I'm happy to help. I must admit, I'd probably go beyond, because I think it's a lot of people still need to be educated about understanding the difference between you doing it yourself and you getting somebody whose whole purpose is looking at numbers and seeing, because I can look at a number and pick up something quickly than you would, because I look at all numbers all day. Do you know what I mean? And also I have the experience of looking at different businesses, whereas you're just looking at yours and you're so involved in the business that you don't see outside of it. But I'm looking at it objectively and thinking, okay, well, why are you doing this? Why are you not doing this? And that's the thing that I think, I don't know whether it's just the Bain community that do that a lot, or just people.
In general, they're trying to cut corners, trying to download things off Google and watch videos. And when I started my first business, it was like, when the first letter came through, I was like, I haven't got time to be working out how to do this. And I just got me an accountant straight away.
Yeah.
And a lawyer. And I remember the lawyer that I had was, she had an office in her basement. That was the lawyer that I had. She's actually quite good, actually. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely, I agree 100%. I echo that. It's the same for having a mentor, isn't it? Yeah. Where you actually need somebody that knows what they're talking about. Like with you guys' experience, you've been talking to lots of businesses. You know fully well, how the best route to go, where to go, what to avoid. But most people think, nah, it's all right. I'll just, I'll tip along.
One more thing I think we should cover, just so we've covered in a roundabout way, the self-employment 80% scenario. So for those of you, just as a recap, if you are self-employed, you can potentially claim for this 80% contribution, assuming your profit isn't above 50K. Is that a fair summary?
Yep, that's a good one. I suppose also as self-employed as well, you can also do that and the universal credit as well. If
the universal credit is a loan, essentially, you have to pay it back.
Depending on what it is. If it's for the mortgage cost and things like that, yes, it is. But the other aspects are like basic allowance, no, that's just a benefit, so to speak.
If you are a director and you do, so separate question still to do the universal credit here. If you're a director, you do the furlough, you get 80% towards your PAYE, which is, call it £600-ish. Can you still apply for the universal credit?
Yes, you can.
Okay, fine. Okay. So does that mean the director could apply for that anyway at £800 if they was on an £800 PAYE?
When you say universal credit, it depends on what part of the universal credit they're applying for, isn't it?
For the main one, not the more.
The allowance, probably not. You'd have to. It's one of those things. It'd be judged on living costs, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Now they want to see your bank statements for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
What was that transaction?
Yeah.
What was that transaction?
Why was delivery on your statements?
Get out of here.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's the self-employed one. Then we've got the job retention scheme.
Yeah.
Which is 80% contribution. If you want to furlough any of your employees, as a director, you can also furlough yourself, but that means you cease working on your business.
Yeah. It's also worth knowing as well. I think this is also something that I'm seeing. There's obviously one side of it where some bigger companies have just let go of staff and they've just been really horrible about how they've done that. But other companies have actually been nice and so you can rehire just to furlough. So that's possible.
How can you rehire just a furlough? That goes against Byron's PAYE question, no?
Does it? Well, it depends on because if it's for the purpose of COVID, if you've done it for COVID, not if you've done it just because your business couldn't survive anyway, that's different.
So what you're saying is if you made them redundant the 2 days before the announcement came out.
Yeah, so if this was done, if your sole purpose of laying staff off was because of COVID, then you can take them back on to do that.
I see, okay.
Yeah, that's different, yeah.
But in the meantime, you have to pay their salary, don't you, until you can claim the money back?
Yeah, but for businesses that can, because some businesses can't, and some of my clients have had to say to their staff, look, I can't afford to pay you right now, we'd have to wait until, and also businesses don't have to, that's another thing, you don't have to pay the 20%, you don't have to top up. It can just be the 80% because that's all your business can afford to do right now. And you perhaps just have members of staff that understand that. But obviously everyone
has to be in agreement almost.
Exactly, yeah.
If we ain't got no money to pay them.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
What do you want to agree to?
That's true. Okay, so they don't have to pay them. I thought so. They don't have to pay them in the meantime. They could wait if they had to wait out till the government gives them the money. 80%.
Yeah. If the staff member, like you rightly say, if the staff member would have to say yes to that. But again, if the money's not there, then that's almost no choice.
So that makes an argument for those who just made people redundant straight away. That makes an argument for that being really not the right.
Exactly. I don't understand that. There are lots of companies that have done that later. But then I see that as your business was failing anyway.
Yeah, it's just an excuse. It's a perfect time and perfect excuse.
Exactly. It's horrid. That's how I see it. Because literally, there's a client of mine. He's self-employed, but he was let go before he became self-employed. So he's one of those that's fallen at the really difficult position where he was going on self-employed, but he's not yet, so he won't have an account. But the business, he won't have something to report to, but the business had let him go. So I said to him, well, why don't you, I literally sent him the cut-out point of the rehiring, and I said, well, why don't you send it to them? And he did, but they just don't, for them, I don't know, maybe they just don't have an accountant that can explain something to them. I don't understand, but it's
all bust, isn't it? Because we don't know yet what the requirement is going to be on this new system from the government. You don't know what they're going to ask for each employee to approve it. And so potentially you're giving yourself more work by hiring people back when you've already let them go off your head.
It's all going to be online. It's via portal. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
So what is your advice to...
Sorry, just the final one is, just so people are aware, is the loan scenario. So the business
gosh. Is this the C-bills? Is this the C-bills you're talking about? The loan from the government to the banks.
Yeah.
That's a joke. I'm sorry. That's the only way that I can put that as, to be honest, because I think we were saying this, and everyone again saw the headlines and thought, oh yay, you know, the government. I don't know whether they're printing money. I don't know what people are thinking. So to explain it in kind of as layman terms as I can get, the government is essentially asking the bank to give their own money, borrow their own money to businesses. Now, the banks this is just me thinking out loud, they've got their money in the stock market, or they've got their money in different places. They don't have that liquid right now. And the other thing also is, if a bank had said no to you before,
they're going to say no now.
Saying yes right now. They're not going to be saying yes right now. And even the worst case situation as well is banks, I think some of the banks have put this out, they're now not accepting new business customers. So if your bank have said no, you can't now even go to another bank to ask for more. So, and then
loan from your own bank.
If you couldn't get a loan from your own bank,
you can't go and get your business loan from another bank. You need it from the bank that you bank with.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also, you know, in terms of the liability, or the liability, essentially 100% falls on you. So the bank would be coming to the business first if you fail, or if it defaults, before they go to the government. So
and the business first, and you potentially have to, you know, you're personally guaranteeing it essentially. And
exactly.
Your house, don't they, assigned as part of?
Yeah. So it's a no-go for me. I literally, I've said to clients, if you want to go down that route, please, by all means, but you're wasting your time. That's how I see it. Because especially if you're a business that, you know, you look at your cash flow and you see that, and you're somebody that's not either borrowed money or your assets look really good, then fine, please go for it. Because at least the bank will be looking at your assets. They will be looking at how you ran your accounts over the last couple of years, not just the first year. They'll be looking at how you've done business prior, and then from that, making a judgment as to whether, you know, yes or no. So there's opportunity for businesses like that, who didn't think about going to a loan before, that could do that now, can do.
Do we have yet any steer on how the new banks are coping with this? So like the Sterlings, the Monzos, the Metros.
They're like, but some of these are like intermediary banks.
Yeah. So Starling is the only one that could possibly offer something, but I don't think I saw them on the list. Yeah. So Starling. Yeah. All the other ones are not. They're not officially.
It's like all on
Metro's not a British bank.
Yeah. Metro Bank is, but so I don't know if I should have said this, but they're potentially saying no. Most of them are saying no. They've made the process a lot difficult. And I think they were slated on the press for that as well, I think.
I mean, Metro are hard anyway.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Is there any good news?
I don't know. The good news is you just have to try and 2 months at the most. That's my prediction. 2 months, 3 months. I know Bianca says possibly.
Everyone's invited to yours to like.
Outside.
Quarantine. Okay.
Sanitize your shoe, like my mother-in-law just said today. You have to sanitize your shoe before you come in.
Those are crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. No.
But yeah, no. The only good news I think I can think about is just trying to think about more creative ideas. This is a time to use our brains, I think.
You're an entrepreneur.
And that naturally fits in with 2 mentors that are able to facilitate.
Yes.
Those creative juices.
Definitely. Definitely.
I don't know where one might find 2 such people.
Oh, I don't know.
The whole name is Byron and Bianca. So.
Have you?
Yes.
Byron and Bianca, mentors.
LinkedIn self-made.
You'll find us. So where can people reach out to you and find you on all of the various platforms?
I think just LinkedIn, just Beverly Sydney. Look for Beverly Sydney LinkedIn. My website, sydneyhudson.co.uk. Those are the 2 main bits. At the minute, I'm overworked at the minute. But if you find me on LinkedIn, I'll do my best. And I am, to be fair, if you do want a quick advice, if you send me a message on LinkedIn, that's fine. I'll answer as soon as I can.
Yeah. And just mention, guys, obviously that you come from the self-made family to get that priority queue jump and health check on
That's
your
right.
from us. But thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
I'm sure this will be the first of many conversations.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. You guys did an amazing job, by the way, for the Black community. Well done, guys.
So yes, also we look forward to I guess, some more announcements.
Yes, I enjoyed that.
Announcements from the government on how we can access all of this. No. So, yeah.
So thank you very much for listening, guys. We really appreciate you being here with us. We hope you found that useful. And I think we'll definitely need to engage Beverly some more to answer some more of your accounting questions, especially when all of this mess is over. You now need to start thinking, okay, this is a reset. How are you going to reset your accounts and make sure that next time you are not in a similar predicament? Thank you very much. I've been Bianca.
And I'm Byron.
And Self-Made
is success.
Bye.